Codex Gigas, this demonic Bible, demonic book, Codex Gigas, that's presently located in Europe, written in 13th century. Interesting subject. Of course, the internet says this is a Bible, this is a book that demons wrote, that demonic entities wrote, that Satan wrote, and the demon was present at the time during this Bible being written. And this is actually information from the internet, from this particular book, from this description. I had a chance to run this story by one of my reptilian counterparts from Europe, and this topic of this Bible was brought to my attention by a dear friend of mine, Peter. And he said, can you look into this? And I did, of course, and just as I expected, it's a ridiculous claim of some demons writing this Bible, and the internet is wrong, obviously. There's nothing demonic about this particular book. And I think today in society, everything is demonic. Anytime someone's triggered by something, oh, that's a demon, that's demonic. You don't like someone, that's demonic. You don't like this president, that's demonic. You don't like someone you're dating and they break up with you because of your own problems, oh, he must be demonic. I hear it all the time. So this Codex Gigas book, it's the same thing. It's first of all, it's a Latin word of a giant book, because it is, it's huge. But there was no Satan, no demon, no Lucifer, no jinns, no fallen angels, no archons, anything ridiculous of that sort that was present during the writing of this particular book, this story, which I'm going to get into in a minute. No such thing exists, such as Satan. Hell doesn't exist. Archonic energy exists. Absolutely exists, of course, but the demons, or a demon, is a very largely misunderstood subject today in the spiritual and religious industry, particularly too in political industry. A lot of the presidents that are pro-Christian, anytime they hear anything about aliens or extraterrestrial contact with humans or ancient civilizations or UFOs, oh, that's demonic. Of course it is. They have no idea what a demon is and where did that term even come from. They only know it from the religious perspective, which is a heavily revised perspective. But the book Codex Gigas wasn't written by any demons or any Satan. Of course not. Bit of a background of this very interesting book. First of all, it's massive. It's 3 feet tall. Extremely heavy book. It's about 165 pounds, so about 310 pages. The book actually had 320 pages, but 10 pages were removed for some reason. Similar as we see in our own Bible today, Wise Book of Enoch, and so many different parts removed, well, for a reason, obviously. But it's the largest medieval manuscript, actually, this particular Devil's Bible, due to the fact that in this book on page 557 or 577, there's a large drawing of a demon or a monster with large teeth and large claws and etc. And a lot of these stories that are within this book, they talk about a lot of these little demons and so forth, these tough little scary demons running around. And our industry, spiritual industry, has these little demon punks. They're just called Galactic Federation of Light actors. But a lot of these pieces of disinformation and misinformation about this Bible, and this is what we see on the internet. Same stories we see depicting of Satan, this powerful, tough bodybuilder, monster man that is got these horns and he's at the gates of hell. No, the actual satanic entities are in Tel Aviv and in Vatican. We just call them religions. But in relation to Satan, that term is inserted loosely, it doesn't exist. Satan was obviously not present during the writing of this book, which is what the internet talks about. This scary man, and in Hebrew, really, when we go back to the history of Satan, in Hebrew itself, that language in the ancient time, all it meant was truly is the opposer of the gods, or ultimate enemy of the gods. But then I asked those people, what's God? Are you sure you're not talking about gods, where S is removed, aka Anunnakis? But by the time the New Testament was written anyway, the term Satan evolved into a different description as this supernatural, powerful, ultimate enemy of God, of oneness, this opposite of God that lives in hell, this tempter of humanity, the leader of the fallen angels. So ridiculous bullshit terms that have been created in falsehoods by very, very, very primitive religious type of brainwashed and conditioned people back in those times, aka Anunnaki slaves, which today they are all across Vatican and Tel Aviv, still falsely assuming they're the God's chosen people, banging their heads against that big stone wall, worshiping planet Saturn. But National Geographic did a good part in relation to this particular book, this demon book, devil book, by a really good documentary that they released called Codex Gigas Bible. This book includes Old and the New Testaments as far as the Bible is concerned, yes, in Latin. And this mysterious book is housed today in Sweden at the National Library of Sweden in the city of Stockholm, I believe, in Europe. And all of the pages have been scanned on the internet by the National Museum. They are available, and it's really neat to see. I went through all the pages. Really, really neat, just the fascinating, the beautiful marksmanship, the precision in writing, the font that they used, and it's pretty cool. So historians say that this manuscript was created in the early 13th century in a religious type of monastery in the region of Bohemia. So Bohemia is what we call today Czech Republic. But this is also false because this date is not correct. I was informed it's actually quite prior to that. The book is slightly older or a bit older, but the age is irrelevant. What is relevant to me, what's relevant I think to everybody, what is relevant truly is who wrote it and why. And he was one man, a human, heavily introverted, loner, religious, very faithful religious man, Christian man. And he was someone who actively derived their peace and energy from extreme isolation. Peace, but isolation, yes. Unlike people who are driven by social anxiety these days, this man was unapologetic about his independence and finding his richest, most deepest experience writing and creating entirely within his own mind, in his own lonely world, private world, but in privacy and in peace, and I respect that heavily. He also had a very strong connection to Earth reptilians, half a dozen of them or so across Eastern Europe. Poland group, which I'm connected to, I've done a video on Poland reptilians already. So this man, whoever wrote this Bible, I was told was connected to that group. That group of Earth reptilians within Poland region, they're responsible for approximately 800-kilometer radius, so significant amount of territory. This is why he depicted, in his own best way, a reptilian being. So the teeth, the claws, the body of a reptilian, typical description. I remember I was explained he placed himself in isolation, away from general public. He was unmarried, he had no children, he wasn't even interested in family life, very similar to Nikola Tesla. So this person, this author of this Bible, placed himself really in complete privacy when doing so. He didn't associate with public from what I was explained. He just wanted to write this masterpiece, and he did. And this whole demon thing, it's a falsehood, that's all. And in November 2025, I've done a video exposing the falsehoods of another place with similar claim called the Devil's Footprint. And there's a church there called Frankenkirche Cathedral. And there's one of the tiles on the floor of this cathedral that's a broken tile, and then they painted it black. And they're saying that the demon was present during the construction of this cathedral. Of course, not true. I've done another similar exposure of another hoax by the Vatican, the Shroud of Turin, which is not a shroud of real Jesus Christ or Joshua ben Joseph or Joshua, which is the name that we associate this man who we call Jesus today. But of course, the demon word, Satan word, these terms are loosely thrown around these days in our society and also in our world today. People too quickly call others demonic or satanic simply because they are emotionally triggered or politically opposed. And people easily also weaponize the words demonic and satanic against anyone they disagree with. And in the conclusion, as far as Gigas Codex Bible is concerned, it was never written by any demons, and the talented author, in my opinion, he never sold his soul to the Satan or demon. These are primitive religious conspiracy theories attaching labels such as demonic, satanic, Luciferian, jinn to ancient myths or folklore and mysterious ancient texts or manuscripts such as this Codex Gigas Bible. And this is done out of fear, ignorance, speculation, non-intelligence rather than factual understanding.